I want to welcome everybody that's watching today. Hopefully there's more going to pop on. It is being recorded, so it will be placed on our website, our league website. But I just want to thank Corey and Christy, two of our members, for doing our September Lunch and Learn. I'm just sad that we have to be Zoom again, but one of these days we're all going to be in person again, and it's going to be safe. I know it is. I know we're going to get there. But so I'm going to turn it over to Corey and Christy, and they're going to talk about Moms Demand Action about gun sense.
I'm Corey Sherman North, and this is Christy Newdig.
Hi.
And we are volunteers with Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, our red shirts. And I'm going to go ahead and share our screen so you can see our slides as we chat. Here's a group of us red-shirted moms demanding action on the steps of the Topeka Capitol. So as I said, Christy and I are both volunteers with Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, and we are volunteers with the Salina group of the Kansas chapter for the national organization. And this national organization is nonpartisan, and that's very important to us, that we welcome all political parties. We welcome gun owners especially, and the only aim is for changing laws for sensible gun policies and gun safety everywhere. Our national organization started in 2012 following the Sandy Hook Elementary School mass shooting, where so many little kids were killed. And like many, Shannon Watts over on the East Coast heard the news and thought, what can we do? What can we do? And so she started this grassroots movement just with a Facebook page, and that grew and grew, so that today there are moms volunteers in all 50 states. So here in Salina, we ended up starting a volunteer group following the Parkland shootings. We had a lot of heartbreak over that Florida Marjory Stoneman Douglas high school shooting. And then our high school here at Central decided that they wanted to do a little memorial and do a 17-minute walkout vigil out on the lawn. And it was really sad. I'm sorry, this gets me every time. Maybe you better say it.
Well, I just think, and Corey's daughter, Hannah, was involved in that and starting that, and Corey went. And then we had been, I think someone reached out to us from the chapter group, or the chapter, the Kansas chapter, and along with Mona and several others, some folks came from Topeka, from Lawrence actually, and we had our first meeting and we just went from there. During COVID, and we've joined because of fewer of us being involved, and because we couldn't meet in person anymore, we joined with other rural groups, with Winfield and Southeast Kansas and Emporia, and we have now our rural group that we're working with, and we're doing that with those folks. We are now mothers and others. We don't just say Moms Demand Action, because there are so many people who aren't parents and people who are, men, people who are men. That's speaking of men, Senator Randall Hardy would meet us every year at the Capitol when we would go, and hopefully we'll be able to go again in February. So I'm going to turn it back to you, Corey.
Okay, thank you, Christy. And this is just to get you a sense of the Kansas group of volunteers, what we actually do. So our mission is to protect people from gun violence. And to do that, we want to pass stronger gun laws and close the loopholes of the laws we do have. We like to encourage safety and a culture of responsible gun ownership, as we talked about a little bit before the meeting got started. And because we do believe that gun violence is preventable, we can draw it down. We do this through advocating with our legislators. This past year for Advocacy Day, instead of going to the Capitol and meeting with Senator Hardy and Representative Diana Dirks, we did online Zoom meetings and met with Senator Moran and Representative Tracy Mann, and also more local Stephen Howe from Salina. And while most of them are not always on the same page we are, they certainly are concerned about gun violence in our state. And here's some facts for Kansas state gun violence. Unintended firearm deaths, such as kids getting into their parents' guns at home. That's this 1.6% of all gun violence in Kansas. Most are suicide deaths, and that's another area where safety in storage is very important. And, you know, that always gets us about 35 children in Kansas die every year from things like unintended shootings. So a few of the things we've done in the past, but recently, working on advocating with our legislators and successfully got them to require that guns be relinquished for convicted domestic violence abusers. Now, there is a loophole for that they, as yet, don't have to give up the guns that they already have. It's just they can't buy new ones. So we are currently working on that loophole. Now, this past year, the bill came up in the State House that calls for reciprocity, where we have to honor gun licenses from other states, which actually meant that our gun owning laws went down to you could be 18 years old. And that passed in our House this past spring. Governor Kelly vetoed it, but a majority passed it anyway. So we do look for gun sense candidates, legislators that are running for office that are also committed to, in our own state, Joella Hoy, who was the previous Kansas chapter leader, volunteer. She stepped down from that and was successfully elected to a Kansas state representative. So we have her in our Congress, and she is already agitating for gun safety. Just this summer, a national effort was to send letters, comments to the ATF because they have not been doing anything about regulating ghost guns, where you can get patterns, digital plans for actually 3D printing out plastic, but very lethal ghost guns. And you can see we know more than 35,000 comments, emails, texts, to Washington, and we have yet to see what happens. Generally speaking, the Moms Demand Action programs that we focus on, we have a very new one, Demand a Seat, where we are helping Gun Sense candidates win elections. Our Wear Orange, every year we do a campaign to remember those lost to gun violence and as an awareness to, let's stop this. We have a survivor network that is very active with people that have survived gun violence, and that probably affects more of us than you think, with family members and work and school people that we know. There's also a Students Demand Action group that's parallel to Moms, and trying to get the younger generation in to be active voters. And then today, we'd really like to focus on our Be Smart program. That's truly nonpartisan. It has nothing to do with policies. It's just a grassroots effort to get information and free gun locks out to our communities. And Christy is going to talk about that.
Be Smart is a program for grown-ups. It is not a program for children. It is not children's responsibility to stay away from guns. It is grown-ups' responsibility to keep the guns out of the hands of our children. This is a program that we present to any group that would like us to present it to them. We have pamphlets, we have all sorts of information that we can hand out. I'm going to give you just a quick overview of it today. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour to present this program. And again, we're happy to do it on Zoom. We're happy to bring it to you. We're happy to table this at events just to give out information. Our group has probably given out about 200 gun locks in the last few years at Halloween events. We hung them on a Christmas tree in the mall and people took them. I believe we still have some gun locks available if people want them. We're happy to get them to them.
And we can get more.
And we can get more. So Be Smart. I'll quickly go through this. The S in Be Smart stands for secure all guns in your home and vehicles. What we mean by that is we want you to have your guns locked and unloaded with ammunition stored separately. Storing a gun in your glove compartment or under the seat of your car or in the nightstand is not secure. And we all know this. The M is to model responsible behavior around guns. Again, keep them stored safely. When we are using our guns around children, we need to make sure that we teach them the safety rules about guns. I'm a gun owner and our guns are kept separate from the ammunition. They're locked up. They're not where anybody can easily get to them. And when our grandchildren visit, they don't even know that we have guns. I'd really like them to never know that, but that's not always my role, I guess. The A in Be Smart stands for ask. Ask about the presence of unsecured guns in other homes. When we send our kids to friends' houses, we ask about swimming pools. We ask about cats and allergies and dogs and all of the things. Are you going to be home? Are these kids going to be home alone? Not only our little kids, but our grown-up kids also, our teenagers, unintentional guns, unintentional deaths. It's amazing to me how many unintentional deaths we have with kids. So we need to normalize this behavior and to say, hey, Corey, when Jessica comes over to play for the day, I just want to check, do you guys have any guns in the house?
Well, we do. We do.
Are they secured guns or?
Yes, we have them in a lockbox.
Okay, and so the kids can't access them.
We can't even get to them at the moment.
Okay, all right, well, I appreciate knowing that, so thank you. It can be as easy as that. It can be in a text message if it makes you feel more comfortable. It seems like we don't talk anymore, we just text. So I personally think that's one of the best things we can do is ask that. The R stands for recognize the role of guns in suicide. I think our suicide death by guns in Kansas is about 68% of our deaths come from that.
Which is a little more than national average.
Okay, a little bit more. I mean, I feel like that rural areas, that is probably a little more, that happens a little more often. Most people who attempt suicide do not die unless they use a gun. 90% of attempts when a gun is used results in death. I went to a VA years ago, and they talked about a 5-minute rule. If it takes 5 minutes for someone to be interrupted by those thoughts of suicide, I think it's like 70% of those people won't attempt suicide. So if you have to go get into your lockbox or whatever reason to interrupt that death, we can save so many lives by suicide that way. The last acronym for Be Smart is TELL. So we want to tell your peers to be smart. We want to talk about this. Again, I think if we could normalize, I have so many friends who are gun owners, and when we talk about this, they're like, makes sense. It makes sense to do that. More than 1,600 children are killed with guns in the US every year. In the US, firearms are the second leading cause of death for children and the first leading cause of death for Black children. As this slide shows, more than 1,600 children under the age of 18 are killed with guns in the US every year, an average of 5 children every day. When children in America are killed with guns, the majority of those deaths, 53%, are homicides. That's nearly 900 children per year. Another 700 children die by firearm suicide each year, and 90 are unintentionally shot and killed. We know that approximately 5.4 million children in the US live in a household with at least one loaded, unlocked gun. Again, 5.4 million children in the US live in a household with at least one loaded, unlocked gun. And this number has likely increased in light of the surge in gun sales during the COVID-19 pandemic. While school shootings and mass shootings typically make national headlines, the reality is that for children under the age of 13, gun homicides most frequently occur in the home. We were just talking about this, that we don't even hear that much about school shootings anymore unless it's a big thing because they occur so often. One study showed that nearly 90% of unintentional shooting deaths and injuries among children under the age of 15 occur in the home. What's more, we know that in incidents of gunfire on school grounds, up to 80% of shooters under the age of 18 obtained the guns they used from their home or the homes of relatives and friends. I know this is an emotional issue, and we may come from different walks of life. Many of you may be parents, some are gun owners, and some are not. You may have had a personal experience with guns, and some of you may have even been impacted by gun violence. We believe that most gun owners want to be responsible gun owners. So we are here today to talk about what all of us, gun owners and non-gun owners alike, can do to make sure children don't have unsupervised access to guns, which again is why we would love to come and present this program to your schools, to your churches, to your groups. So thank you.
I recently kind of accidentally got into a discussion with a very dear friend of mine who is a gun owner and really enjoys using his guns. And I love this man dearly. I do. I love him. But I was so taken aback and surprised by things he said about Moms Demand Action. Like, I don't know if he used the word hate, but I definitely got the vibe from him that he hates us. And it made me so sad. And you know, I tried to interject to him, you know, we're not about taking everybody's guns away. And he doesn't believe that. He thinks that's what we're about. And I so wish that he could have heard your presentation here today. I wish he could have heard Christy say, I own a gun, but I keep it safely locked up. And like when my grandchildren come, they don't even know it's in the house. I mean, I wish he could hear this. And I wish that I wish when we had that discussion, I wish I would have done a better job of trying to explain to him. And I did try to explain to him that, that's really not what we're about, but he doesn't believe that. And I think there's an awful lot of that out there where people just don't understand that that's really not our goal, to take everybody's guns away. I mean, come on. How can anybody be against safety protocols in place in people's homes with guns? I don't understand how anybody can be against an organization that strives for that. I don't understand it. And someday maybe I'll get up the courage to try to have another discussion with this friend of mine. I just was so shocked by it. I really was taken by surprise. I was surprised at how strong his feelings were about it. And it made me very sad. It made me very sad. And I wish that people could just open their minds enough to understand about, we're not just talking about, we're not just talking about homicides. We're talking about suicides. 68%, that's a lot. That is a lot. That's a big number. That's a number we should not be ignoring. And the thing with kids getting a hold of guns when they have their friends over and they're just playing and someone accidentally ends up dead, that's inexcusable. That's preventable. And that is so much a part of what Moms Demand is about. And so I just struggle with it. I think people have a lot of misconceptions about what Moms Demand is about. And I think people really need to check themselves and understand that it's not us trying to take their guns away. It's us trying to prevent deaths, unnecessary deaths. That's what it's about.
Unfortunately, I think this has come from the NRA's very intentional brainwashing. Anytime a legislator has voted for a sensible thing like keeping guns from convicted domestic abusers, they are punished by, NRA then gives them F ratings and, no money, and money then goes to their opponents who then will not vote for gun safety policies. So that's a real problem.
The Be Smart program is so non-political, and that's what we all love about it. Mona's presented it at Universal Unitarian Fellowship. Sorry, I always say that wrong. We've tabled with it, and it's just good information. It's just good common sense information, which is what I love about Moms, is that it's not political. It can get political. I mean, it can, but the basis is not political. It's just good common sense. Anything that we can do to save our children and our at-risk loved ones. We all have at-risk loved ones.
Yeah.
I've lost several family members due to suicide by gun, and it's a horrible, horrible thing.
When there would be a school shooting or a mass shooting of any kind, and I said, and I kept telling them, I said, people need to be respectful of these guns. They need to be responsible. And my friends were like, you're just trying to take my guns away. It's like, no,
just use them safely.
Yeah, I'm like, I just want people to take care of them. There's no point for a child to be able to find a gun laying on the table or in the drawer. I mean, there's no reason for that. And, and I want to know a little bit more about this ghosting gun you were talking about, or the ghost gun.
The ghost gun is this internet fueled phenomenon. People can produce their own plastic guns that is fireable. You can buy kits for that, or, with the pieces that can come in the mail, or you can buy parts that you need, like for the firing mechanisms, and then you can download a program using a 3D printer and, produce the casings. So as of now, there is no policing of these sales of the files, of the kits. There's no background checks, so convicted domestic abusers, for instance, could download a gun basically. And there is absolutely no oversight at this time.
No tracing.
These and making, their own arsenals at home.
Wow. So what about buying guns like a gun show? Do they have the waiting period and the background checks? Like if you go to Walmart or another store that sells guns?
So if you're a licensed gun dealer, you have, by federal law, you have to do a background check. But I can go in and buy a gun, and then I can walk out onto the sidewalk and I can sell Corey that gun as an individual, and there's no background check. We just had a situation in Louisiana. It's illegal to have an assault weapon or a semi-assault weapon in Louisiana if you're under the age of 21. But there was an 18-year-old who someone gifted him this gun, and he had it in the back seat of his car, and there was a small child in the back seat of this car, and this child got a hold of the gun as they were driving down. I don't know if it was the highway or a street. The person was telling me about it. I had firsthand knowledge of this. And the kid shot the AR-15 off. Luckily, nobody was injured, amazingly, and the police were called and found him, blah, blah, blah. But this 18-year-old legally had, he had the gun legally, but clearly was not responsible with the semi-automatic weapon. So that's in Louisiana. I don't know what, and we know that our states has very loose gun laws. We know that Texas just passed a law that it's open carry for anyone. So you can go into the store. I don't know if y'all remember a few years ago when we first did that here. I can remember going into Sam's and the grocery store, and I would walk in and I would walk out because I would see some guy with a gun on his hip. And I don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy.
Right.
I don't know. And so I'm not going to put myself in harm's way if I can help it. And I know somebody could have one concealed, but when I see it, So those are all reasons that I got involved. I have a myriad number of reasons, but those are reasons that I have gotten involved and stayed involved with moms, because I just see this craziness continuing. And I'm sorry to use the word craziness, but in my mind, when I have somebody with an AR-15 shooting it on the highway, that's craziness.
And why would anybody need an AR-15 to begin with?
Well, Lori, it's not about need, it's about want and their rights. And so you're right. I agree with you 100%. But that would be their argument, is that it's our right, our Second Amendment right. And we're not trying to step on anyone's Second Amendment rights. We just look at it differently, I think. But again, why do you need this? You don't need this to protect your home.
Right.
You don't need an AR-15 to go kill a deer.
Right.
And I think some of these people actually think of their guns as almost like, how some people are crazy about football. These people, they almost think of their guns as like a hobby or a sport or something, and something that they have every right to. And it's so not like that. It's not a sport, it's not a hobby. I guess it could be a hobby, but the thing is, when it results in an innocent death, then that's just a wake-up call that we're doing something wrong here. And when you look at the statistics, we're doing a lot wrong here. Like it's just not acceptable. The
Right.
numbers, and we'll never wipe all of it out. Of course not. And I think anybody that belongs to Moms Demand knows that. But isn't it worth the effort to try to lower those statistics? I think it is.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
We've put all of our links in the chat. I don't know. I'm going to put them in again. We have lots of Facebook pages. We have lots of information available. The Be Smart for Kids, you can go, there's all that. If you don't want us to present to your group, but you want to share that information, there's lots of information you can go in and get and present, do handouts. We have handouts that we're happy to bring you. If you're a survivor or know of a survivor, I will tell you, our survivor network is absolutely amazing. The work that Moms does to help people who identify as survivors. Our Students Demand Action group, I don't think we have a local group here in Salina, but I know that we can get help with that.
If we want to start some, there are student demand actions groups at KU and K-State now. So they are around. There's a few groups in high schools in other states, but we really haven't done much in the high schools yet.
But we have several Facebook pages you can go in and get information. Every stat, which is the last one. So every town for gun safety is we're under their umbrella and have been for probably 4 or 5 years, maybe. They have so much statistical information. If that's something that drives you, I really, you can go to every state, you can drill down to all sorts of things. It's absolutely amazing to me what all information you can get there. So those are all links. And Corey's put both of our email addresses in. We're happy to answer any questions or help you with
At any time.
anything that we can. If we don't have the answer, we can certainly get it. We have lots of, that's the crazy thing. There are 6 million supporters of Moms Demand Action in the United States. So it's a huge grassroots
In all 50.
organization. There is a chapter in all 50 states. So, and the one thing that I love the most that we do is when we get to go to the State House, and I do not, as much as I like to talk, I do not like to talk to the senators and legislators at the State House, but after you do it for a few times, it gets easier, and then you can do it for other things that are important to you. So that's what's really helped me also with moms, is I've learned so much about being able to talk to people in power. They're just like us. Sometimes they're not as smart as we are. And voters helps us with so many issues and things that are important to us. And I love that we live in a country that we can do this. So there's that.
Yeah. What about Salina and Saline County as far as like gun deaths, gun stuff? Is that a major issue or?
Well, we don't have a major issue with murders by gun violence, although we just had one here, 2 weeks ago on Iron Street. So I would guess maybe 1 to 2 a year, which again is too many, but we don't have like the Wichita or Topeka issue here in Saline County. I'm guessing our issues would be more with suicide by gun.
Yeah.
Would be more our
Suicide
issues.
and accidents.
Because I know when I read every morning I read the arrest record from the previous day, and a lot of them are probation violation, or, some of them are, you can see they've got a felony and they're found with a gun, and, and it just crazy, just amazes me that these people that they know they're not supposed to, but they're still able to get these guns, and
Right.
Yeah, we do need to keep working on the background checks for everyone. It's an important issue. And they are working on that on the national level.
And the age for Kansas is 21 for a
18
gun.
now- It's gone down to 18 now.
Oh,
They've just
18.
passed that this spring.
So college campuses, they have carry on college campuses now.
So now it's
Oh.
allowed.
And the other thing that I love about moms is if you sign up for their information is that they will, and you can text 64433. You can text ready to that number, and that will get you involved in, I can't talk and write at the same time. That will get you involved in the group, and you will get emails. Sometimes you get a lot of emails, but you can limit that. Also, you get emails about stuff that's going on, and they will just send you the information. You just have to fill out your information, and they will write your signature for you. They will write your legislators for you. It really does make a difference in letting people know that we're not going to stand for this. And so if you have 5 minutes a day or 5 hours a day, there is a place for you here.
All of this information is indeed very helpful. My brother-in-law was shot many years ago by somebody, and he's been in a wheelchair ever since. I have my brother and my son-in-law are both gun aficionados, but they keep things locked up. My son-in-law kept things locked up. As his boys were growing, they got safety training. They know the right things, and things are still kept locked up. But the boys are grown up now, so but they've all been taught the right way.
And I believe that many gun owners are very responsible gun owners. I don't want to say that, people are, because I do believe that the majority of people are. We just have to get more of them.
It's just very frightening when you read about the child that picked up the gun
Yeah.
and accidentally shoots somebody. That's the one. I think that's one of the things that gets me the most.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and I also would point out that, we've had so many school shootings, and how many of those school shootings were an adolescent kid who got a gun from within his own household, got a hold of that gun from within his own household. And
Yeah,
so
that's-
again, it goes back to, how can anybody be against preventing that? With all the numbers of mass shootings that we've had, I just don't understand the mindset that says, no, we don't want to have tougher laws. You're just trying to take our guns away. I just don't get it. Immediately go on the defense, and again, there's plenty of people that belong to Moms Demand Action that are gun owners,
Yeah. Yeah. So I think our mission is to just keep trying to get the message out there in a very non-combative way, to be non-threatening, to just try to be helpful.
I just thought of a question.
Uh-huh.
What do you feel about all the movies and TV shows and the violence? How much does something like that come into play with this? With people and the guns and.
Well, there's not a ton of research compiled yet because we haven't spent a lot of money federally to do these studies. But what we have so far is there is not a direct correlation between violent video games or movies and kids actually going out and wanting to shoot and kill people.
Oh,
There really
okay.
has not been demonstrated. But, there's always a.
Well, we see that we have that violence everywhere, the violent films and video games all over the world. But what we don't see all over the world are the shootings that we have in the United States. More gun violence issues than any other country like us in the world. But yet we all have TVs and video games. So
Right.
that's, I think, the information that we have.
Yeah. So
Yeah, because I know I've heard people say, well, it's the video games that these kids are watching or this or that, and I'm just like, well, I used to watch Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote, and I never went and did any, or Yosemite Sam, you know. I never did that, you know, and so I didn't know if that had any bearing on situations now. And
Our gun violence epidemic is uniquely American.
Yeah, other countries have the similar, as Christy said, the similar movies, the same video games, and the number of gun deaths in other countries is just phenomenally low. They have far better policies. But sensible gun laws.
yeah. But I think as long as the NRA is financing candidates, I think we're in for a uphill battle.
I'm happy to see that the NRA is running into trouble. You know, and not being as successful, but I think that'll take a while to see the effects of that.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate being able to share.
Yeah, and get in touch at any time.
Our next Lunch and Learn will be Tuesday, October the 12th at 12:15. It will be by Zoom, and we will be having, can't think of his name, from the Mitch from the Salina Economic Development Organization.